the huge landmass that is North America, there's one part that really stands out for its distinct culture and language, and that is the province of Quebec. Now, I'm in Montreal, Canada, Quebec's largest city, and the second biggest French-speaking city in the world outside Paris. Now, Montreal brings to Canada many of the same characteristics France brings to the rest of Europe. Style, sophistication, and above all, a love of fine food.
Bon appétit.
With its European architecture, Montreal has a continental feel. Very different from that of my hometown of Toronto and the Anglophone Canada I'm most familiar with. And this isn't surprising, for when settlers from France first arrived here in the 16th century, their aim was to recreate their homeland in the New World. But it was another imperial power, Britain, which was to gain control of Canada and absorb the majority French-speaking province of Quebec into its own English-speaking empire.
Until the 1960s and 70s, Quebec was predominantly English, even though the population was French. And there became a simmering resentment by the French that there should be more room for French, more French life.
A nationalist movement grew up to empower the Francophone majority. And in a 1995 referendum, Quebec came within just a percentage point of declaring independence from Canada. Separatism has declined since then, but Anglo-French tensions remain, particularly when it comes to language. In the 70s, the Québécois, as Quebec's people are known, succeeded in having English replaced by French as the province's official language. And today, even many well-known international brands must be translated into French.
There's no English on this menu.
No, this is Quebec, and most menus are just in French, and you're expected to understand it. This is France in North America. This is a little slice of France here in North America where people speak French, live in French.
Just as the French language is at the heart of Quebecois identity, so too is food.
I just read a poll this morning. With the falling economic problem, what would you give up first? And Quebecers, unlike the rest of Canada, the one thing they won't give up is their food shopping. Food's just food in English Canada. In Quebec, food is like holy material. That's a very French thing.
And the two, language and food, are curiously intertwined.
We've had a tremendous number of food fights here because as they try to make Quebec French, they said Quebec should have a French look. So all the signs have to be in French, all the restaurant names have to be in French. So every English restaurant that was called the keg room, the beer room, suddenly had to be, le chambre de bière. They created something called the language police. The politics of food just became crazy in Quebec, like almost a comedy film,
But the zealousness of the Office de la Langue Française, the so-called language police, to make French Quebec's dominant language, is no laughing matter for some. This Irish-themed pub recently attracted their scrutiny.
We received a letter stating that an inspector came into our establishment and noticed that the signs on the walls were all in English. We were instructed in the letter to either translate the signs or remove them. And the signs in question were basically, antiques, decoration, signs that we purchased in Ireland, which can't be translated. We do live in a French society. However, decor, though, I think really crosses the line, because then where would you go next? Would you say that the ambient music should be in French as well?
McKibben's Pub has so far resisted implementing the orders of the Office de la Langue Française. Its actions may strike some as excessive regulation. And so too might another rule here, for despite Montreal's reputation as a foodie paradise, it's unlikely you'll be able to pick up a quick snack on a street corner.
Fear has always been, some of you allowed street food. People would leave the restaurants and eat the street food, and the restaurants wouldn't do as well and they would suffer. The idea is that if you had a pretzel stand outside this restaurant now, everybody would rush out and buy pretzels and they wouldn't order the oysters.
Someone who no doubt would always choose the oysters is Françoise Kaler, the doyen of French Canada's food scene. For her, food is integral to Quebecois identity.
La cuisine pour un francophone.
For a francophone, cuisine is a language of its own. It's a means of self-expression, like painting or writing.
And the lunch Madame Kaler is enjoying today at Europia restaurant is certainly a work of art. Her favorite course is the first, tiny scallops reared in the glacial waters of northern Quebec, served on a foam scented with real seawater.
Voici madame, les pétoncles princesse avec le lait mousseux de Maury.
C'est une œuvre d'art, hein?
It's a piece of art.
Tableau. Alors, les pétoncles princesse.
It's essence of seawater, but frothy, as if I was in the foam of a crest of a wave.
Voici donc l'ajout de veau braisé, purée de panais et petite galette de pommes de terre. Section fromagère.
Section fromagère.
On va avoir un roquefort papillon, un brie de Meaux et une tome de Savoie. Voici mesdames un petit dessert pour terminer.
La panna cotta, ça je suis sûre.
Très bien. Le brownie?
Oui.
Voilà.
Merci.
According to Madame Kaler, this sensuous delight in food, its elevation to an art form, is not always shared by English-speaking Canadians.
J'ai l'impression que les anglophones sont d'abord.
I feel that Anglophones are more in a hurry at the table. Restaurant owners will tell you that they eat and run, whereas we Quebecois stay longer and we talk about what we've eaten and even what we're going to eat.
Such haute cuisine is not hard to find in today's sophisticated Montreal, but the dish I've always associated with Quebec is altogether less refined. It's called poutine and consists of French fries topped with cheese curds and gravy. And it's something of a craze here, as these young Montrealers explain to me.
It's like the national dish. When I travel and I come back to Montreal, I crave for the first poutine, you know, that's a tradition. Bon appétit. Bon appétit. It's fast food, so it's very convenient. It's, you know, it's just so easy to make and easy to eat.
You like it? Yes, it's very good.
But poutine doesn't always appeal to finer palates.
Il y a beaucoup de gens qui vont crier au
Many people think it's scandalous because it's not cooking, it's an aberration. Really, it is an aberration.
Frowned upon by purists, as it may be, in another Montreal restaurant, Chef Martin Picard has put poutine at the center of his culinary repertoire.
Everybody was very hypocrite about the poutine, you know, and that was pissing me off. So I just decided to think about something, you know, who will make that plate work all over the world.
His playful solution was to add a luxurious ingredient to the simple French fry, cheese, and gravy mixture. Foie gras, or the liver of a force-fed goose.
The foie gras poutine?
I'll give it a go. It's really salty, but good.
With other hearty dishes on offer, like stuffed pig's foot, tripe pasta, and duck served in a can, some have claimed that Monsieur Picard's cooking is a heart attack waiting to happen.
I'm not maybe that healthy, but people now, they don't take time to have some pleasure. And pleasure also comes from the food, with the wine, with the people with who you are.
And it's that communal aspect, the personal relationships built around food, the importance ascribed to eating well together, that's so apparent here in Montreal.
I think it's part of the culture. I think it's partially European-driven.
Natalie Spielman is one of Montreal's growing community of food bloggers, dedicated to passing on her knowledge of and passion for Montreal's food to the widest possible audience through the internet.
This is his whole stand, so...
She wanted to show me Jean Talon Market, one of the city's finest.
White peaches is very good. This kind of plums, they're amazing.
Nobody does this in a supermarket.
It soon became clear that Natalie comes here as much for the personal relationships the market engenders as for its high-quality produce.
They're good, eh? A little bit more red.
When you ask them about the products, they know what they're talking about. It's almost an extension of themselves.
I've never ever seen those
Stick your
before.
nose in there. And this is the cod. Can you make sure to put some aside for me? It's not just the exchange of, money for produce, it's the exchange between people, it's that relationship. Merci à vous.
For Natalie, the respect for food, so evident at Jean Talon Market, transcends the Anglo-French divisions of the city. Divisions which I was coming to realize are increasingly a thing of the past. Many young bilingual Montrealers like her.
I don't think that you enjoy food because you're from a certain language. I think you enjoy food because you're from a certain culture, and that culture is Montreal culture.
This is Montreal's Saint Laurent Boulevard, known by the locals simply as the Main. Now, historically, it was the dividing line between the French and English-speaking communities, but over time, it's become a corridor of sorts, used by the waves of immigrants who have come to settle here, making the Main the path to Montreal's many exciting cultures.
Montreal may have a very French feel, but it's also among the most multicultural places in North America. One group that has been especially influential here, in particular when it comes to food, has been the Jewish community. It is they who introduced bagels from Eastern Europe. And another famous Montreal delicacy, smoked meat sandwiches. This is Schwartz's Hebrew delicatessen, located right in the center of the Main and a Montreal institution.
This place is unique. It appeals to basically people who want to taste, a tam, as we say in Yiddish, of the old country. It's soul food. It's soul food for Jews.
Food writer Barry Lazar has been coming here for decades, and it hasn't changed, looking much as it did 50 years ago. But while Schwartz's may have stood still in time, the Jewish community it originally served has not been immune to the Anglo-French struggles which so dominated Montreal in recent times.
The Jewish community was not allowed to go to the French school system because the French school system was Catholic. So you had an entire generation of the Jewish community which was not allowed to learn French the way that French people were learning. They were disenfranchised from what was going on in Quebec, and so they gradually moved to various places. A lot of people moved to the States, they moved to Toronto.
A significant Jewish community remains in Montreal, but the food served at Schwartz's has not been kosher, that's to say, permissible to religious Jews, for many years. And its staff mirror how multicultural the city has become. Among the longest serving is Johnny, of Portuguese origin.
This is Johnny. Johnny has been here 35 years.
Almost 35,
and the important thing, not everyone can cut smoked meat. This is a hard skill, right?
Yes, I started early. I washed dishes before, then I came out this.
Okay, and not only that, people think there's only one kind of smoked meat, right?
No, it's one kind, but the cut is different. There's some lean, some medium, and some fat one.
What is the most popular?
Well, more fat, there's more juicy, it's more taste. The lean is kind of dry. More you have a little fat, better it is.
See, look at this. I mean, there's really a sign. Look how dry that is.
Yeah.
It's tasty, it's okay.
Tasty, but
once you start getting this, here's where your flavor is coming through.
The flavor's in the fat.
But this is better for your waistline.
Yeah, that's what they say.
All right, well, let's try a sandwich then.
That's it.
I'll have mine medium fat.
After my smoked meat lunch, Barry showed me more of the cultural influences that have shaped the Main.
Over there,
Portuguese,
rotisserie cocorico.
Greek,
this is Greek cookies, the baklavas,
and Chinese.
We're in Chinatown right now, and I don't know, it looks and it feels like it's the biggest community we've seen so far.
It feels big because it's really small. And what I mean is that all the other communities we've been talking about, they spread out after they came into the city, went to different areas. Chinatown has been here since the 1880s. People no longer live here in such concentration, but the cultural life is still here. The heart of the Chinese community remains here.
Now this looks different. Dragon's beard candy.
Dragon's beard candy. This is unique, and Johnny Chin makes it. He's been making it here for about 18 years. It's very unusual.
In the old day, it was only served the Emperor of China and the royal family. We are making this candy out of this sugar of corn syrup. From this, we're going to put it into 8,192 strands. Put it, we double. 1 becomes 2, 2 becomes 4, 8, 16, 32, 64, 128, 256, 1,046. We double for the last time. We have 8,192 strands.
These are great.
The Maine, with its myriad of flavors, is a microcosm of the many immigrant cultures that shaped Montreal in the last century. And whereas in the past, most immigrants came from Europe, you just have to look around at the multiplicity of ethnic restaurants here to realize that today's arrivals come from more troubled parts of the world, Latin America, the Middle East, and Africa. It's a story I know from my own family's past. My parents immigrated to Canada in the late 70s after fleeing the regime of Idi Amin in Uganda and his campaign against Asians.
Bonjour, hi.
And it was another political upheaval around that same time, the Islamic Revolution of 1979, that persuaded Ali Khan to leave his native Iran.
Merci. Merci.
He and his family now run this supermarket named Akavan, or Brothers in Farsi. It may have been patronized initially by Middle Easterners, but now has a wider following.
We're not serving only one nation, we're serving lots of nations, so and Montreal is a very multicultural city.
As well as selling spices and nuts imported from the Middle East, Akavan provides a genuine taste of home for its Iranian patrons in the form of this small restaurant. And as with all the groups I've encountered in Montreal, food is at the center of community life.
It is very important in our culture, and because we, as in the old days, they used to keep tell us always have homemade food. As you see here, all the food you see, we cook the same way as we cook at our house. My mom, she cook the same rice, same thing. Our soup and our stew, the same thing, not even a bit different.
25-year-old Amid came to Montreal from Iran as a teenager. Like many new immigrants, he spoke some English, but no French. But according to a controversial Quebec law, and in order to strengthen the province's French identity, new immigrants are offered a state education only in French.
What do you think of that law that immigrants have to go to school in French?
Very good. Because if there is no this law, they won't go. And for them to learn French is very necessary to live in Quebec.
And Ali too seems relaxed about the language struggles that have exercised so many here.
So I noticed you have some English signs here. You get in trouble from the language police?
No, actually, they are very nice with me because they know this store is very multicultural store and they don't bother us. Sometimes they send a note, but just that.
Whether it be for the many immigrant groups or for the Quebecois majority, food in Montreal seems to play a crucial role in defining and maintaining their distinctive identities. But in view of the importance given to eating well here and the obvious joy taken in it, it came as a real surprise to me to learn that lack of food, hunger, is a growing problem. For despite Canada's generous welfare state, poverty is not hard to find. This warehouse is the largest food bank in Canada. It helps to feed over 150,000 Montrealers a month. by distributing free food to various charitable organizations. One such group is the Native Friendship Centre, which caters to Montreal's community of Aboriginals. That's to say, Canada's Indigenous inhabitants. Brendan helps manage the centre, but he was once in need of its services. Like many Aboriginals, he left his reservation and migrated to the city in search of better opportunities. But the culture shock he faced was not helped by the stereotyping still widespread in Canadian society.
I met a Lebanese man here. He thought I was from the Middle East too. So I told him that I was North American native. And he told me, he stepped away and he said, my friends told me to stay away from native people because they drink and they're violent and they all have like bugs in their hair. And I told him, I said, well, I hope that you educate yourself. I hope that you don't hold that in your heart to believe it, that all of my people are like this, because we're not all like this.
I couldn't help being struck by the irony that while so much energy continues to be expended here on the struggle between French and English speakers, from the Aboriginal perspective, both were imperial invaders. And while new immigrants may encounter ready opportunities, many Aboriginals continue to be marginalized.
Bon appétit, monsieur.
But as ever in Montreal, the joy taken in food provides some common ground.
There, not too much for you. Enjoy the meal.
Feasts have always been a part of Native and Inuit traditions, to get people together, to eat, to socialize, to share.
It may not be a feast as such, but today the visitors at the center seem content with their simple meal of soup, prepared with donations from the food bank. As I prepared to leave Montreal, I reflected on what Brendan had told me. To get people together, to eat, to socialize, to share. That, I was coming to understand, is what Montreal is all about.